we were driving back, Maya and I were driving back Sunday night. It was Sunday night, right? Yeah. Sunday night we were heading into town about 11:30 when I'm on Facebook and I start to see all these notifications. And it's about, oh, there's a shooter in Vegas, something's going on, there's multiple shootings at multiple different casinos on the Strip. And, you know, it was kind of one of those, I felt my stomach drop. It was like a gut check type feeling. Maya was driving, I was sitting in the back kind of filling her in what I was reading, hearing. You know, there were already news reports coming up. The attack had happened about an hour before I guess we'd read this, and I work at a place called Tom's Urban, a bar on the Strip in New York, and I'm seeing from coworkers that they're all running in the back in the kitchen. That about 100 people ran into the restaurant and were being, like, you know, herded in by the servers and bartenders and managers that were on duty. And I'm reading reports of multiple shooters, one in the New York garage, one in the Bellagio garage, one in the lobby of New York. There was reports down, you know, as far down as like the Link. I'm under the impression that the worst has happened. You know, and I've lived in Vegas for 25 years now, and honestly, I always thought that, you know, we were fortunate that nothing bad has happened at this point. I mean, nothing really bad. We hadn't had any major terrorist attacks. We hadn't had anything like that up to this point. So, you know, and the way it went down, we are now the most prolific mass shooting of all time, most infamous mass shooting in what I consider my hometown in Las Vegas. And just the way it went down was extremely horrifying. All I can feel is just sympathy. I mean, I want to say empathy, but I've never gone through that.
Well, I know that some of you were on a stream, communication WhatsApp, and I actually was asleep. I was invited to that country festival. I love country, but I do not like festivals, so I declined. And so I was asleep by 10 o'clock, before 10 o'clock, and I fell asleep with the TV on, and I woke up to see the stream of communication between you all and the phone calls, missed phone calls and messages from Israel, from Michigan, and other people in California and people here. And I think the first communication that I saw from you all was with Michael and Liad. Mm-hmm. And can you share a bit? Yeah,
I'd actually, which looking back at the timeline, I'm like, the way that it panned out when I found out was like insane. I was actually going to bed also, and I had gotten a call from my girlfriend in Boston who had just flown there, who had gotten a call from her sister in California asking if she was okay. Then she called me, and that was at 10:20. So, I mean, like, the shooting had like just stopped, and through the line of communication, I had already known. And when Holly called me at first, it was just like it was nonchalant. She was like, "Oh, there's something going on in the Strip." And my sister just called, and so I immediately went on and looked. I was like, "Oh, this is like serious. I think this is like really serious." So I got off the phone with her and called my dad, who lives in Vegas, just to make sure, because they go to festivals and they do stuff down at the Strip a lot. So just to make sure that they weren't down there. He answered, and they were at home, and didn't know what was going on also at the time. Mm-hmm. And then then where we actually live is right by the Palms. And actually from my bedroom, you could see the top of Mandalay Bay. And so I stepped out on the back balcony and could hear kind of the chaos, all of the sirens and the helicopters coming in. And at that point, I still wasn't totally sure. I hadn't turned the news on yet, actually. I just like looked at a few things on social media, called my dad, stepped out, was like, I wonder if I can hear something since it's right down the Strip. And when I heard the amount of sirens, I was like, oh wow, this is like really big deal. So then I went in and turned the news on, and and they were showing everything, and yeah, it was so crazy. But at the same time, I mean, the timeline of that was so that 5 minutes, apparently, as we know now, 5 minutes after he stopped shooting, 20 minutes after, or 15 minutes after he started, I knew it was going on through chains, like
another state.
Yeah, from another state to a different state. To me, I mean, I'm like, that's definitely the modern technology side.
David, you weren't in town.
I wasn't. I'd gone to bed that evening at 10:30 Eastern time. I was in Washington D.C. for a conference, which was 7:30 in the evening here. And I put my phone on sleep mode, as I normally do, and I woke up at 5:30 Eastern time Monday morning, which was 2:30 a.m. Here in Las Vegas. And I went to my phone as I normally do in the morning to take it off of sleep mode, and I saw a barrage of messages from my colleagues, from all of you. I saw messages from the UK, and I was just, I was a bit confused as to what was going on. I had not heard about it, and I immediately went to a news site on my phone, and I saw 20 people were dead at that time, and there were about 200 injured. I saw that there was a shooting. I did not know the severity of the incident, of the shooting, and I became very worried. I did assure everybody that I was fine and that I was in Washington D.C., and I proceeded to go down to the conference, which I was needed at, and then I went online and I started reading the stories, and I was absolutely floored, and I've had this feeling of helplessness, because I felt so useless that I was 2,000 miles away, and I had a great need, I felt, to be close to my friends, to be close to my colleagues, to be close to my family, and I just felt awful being so far away. And I started feeling a sense of sadness, a little bit of panic. It was a very difficult day that day to get through it. I was distracted with the conference I was at, but at the same time, I just felt, I didn't feel myself. And the closest I could describe that feeling to was when I watched the events unfold during September 11th. That was the closest that I've ever had that feeling. That was the last time I really have had that feeling, was when I watched that, and it hit me hard. I was down at the conference keeping tabs on people. I contacted people here in Vegas, people I knew that were particularly country western music fans, just to make sure that they were okay. And everyone's response was positive. Everyone was safe, but there was also a sense of hopelessness for that particular day, and that's what I really felt. And I felt I felt such a desire to want to be here. And much like Michael, I've only been here for a year, and it was on the very anniversary, my 1-year anniversary of being here in Las Vegas, that this happens. And I felt such a strong bond to this city. I love it here, and I appreciate the city more and more so. And one of the things that this incident has done is it's made me see how much of a home this city is for me, and how connected I am. And it's also made me appreciate the people in my life that I have around me, at how much they care about me.
And like I mentioned, I went to sleep and I woke up at 3, so similar timing. And at that time, they had only had the numbers at 20 dead and 200 injured. And looking at the stream of communication, there was one person who had not responded to our messages. So that was, it was a spark of like you used the word helplessness, because to feel so close to you all, and I am known to make up stories in my mind and sometimes think the worst, especially in a situation when it's people that we care about. And so only now imagining, you know, how everyone felt at the festival, and to feel worried, or someone who knew of someone who went to the festival and to not have heard from them. If I didn't know that I didn't even know if you had gone or not, but to not even see a response from Antonio in that stream, I started shaking. And I saw even Maya had said, Antonio, Shawn, and I was asleep, and Antonio is normally up late, and there was nothing from Antonio. And it was hours, finally, when he responded. So it was a wave of emotions, because first you look at it from the outside. We had just returned from Israel, and just think people were worried about us going to Israel. Having the comfort of us being here and how safe it is in Israel and how safe it is here, having all these positive emotions. Yom Kippur, High Holy Days had just passed. You feel good, you're off to a great start, a new year, and then this happened. And so the worry, fear, devastation. Then the images that you all mentioned. Every time you saw the images, you could feel each person. And then the sound of the gunshots, you could feel the pain. And those are things that I don't think will leave us. It is a little different from 9/11. It is a little different from the shootings in Orlando, because we had a lot more footage, and there was a lot more sounds, and we had the recap of everything from the beginning, during the situation, and then we're going through the aftermath now. Maya is always the connector in all of us, and usually, you know, I feel very connected to all of you, but I didn't want to really talk to Maya because I was at my weakest, most vulnerable stage, and I didn't understand how bad I felt, and I didn't want to, I don't know, I felt like I needed to be stronger for all of you in case you needed to talk. But I couldn't pull that out, and I've never experienced something like that. And like you said, all of the descriptions that you used, the helplessness, sadness, anger, all those things were just going like a wave. And I remember saying, I'm having a hard time. It wasn't about me. It was just, what do you do? You're having a hard time trying to process it. But Antonio, when you finally responded, it's almost like a feeling of a lost child. If you have a lost child in the mall, and I'm sure Maya, you can relate to that. It was anger, like, how did it take so long to respond? And it was happiness that, wow, you're okay. And you didn't understand even what the big deal was.
Yeah, for me, from the beginning, when I noticed what happening, was because my sister-in-law told me, and I was waiting for my husband came from work. He works at Aliyah, and it's close to Mandalay Bay, and I felt cold, I felt empty, and I was just worried for him, and my brain just disconnected. I just want to know if he was good. And I tried to call him, but he was working, so he can.
Plus, they said the reception was bad
respond
on the strip too.
I think maybe it was
so many calls and overload of
But I think like 11:50, around 11:50, he called me, and finally I was sure he was good, and all the way at home he never stopped talking with me because we just don't want to lose the connection. And I don't know, it's weird, but I had seen violence before. I'm from Colombia, and we have a history with violence, but there's something different because in my country, most of the time, you know why that's happening. You know it's because something like a robbery or something like a group of people who doing some kind of protest, or there's something, a reason. But that's the thing here. You don't know. You just know it's one person, and what's the reason? Why? Why?
And that's where they are now. They're trying to put these pieces together to figure out why. Normally, we can, like you said, heal quicker, process time may be quicker because we'll say, oh, we understand. Like you're saying, you put a face and an understanding to it. Oh, it was gang related, or it was a terrorist. And remember in the beginning, they did try to say that there were multiple shooters, or they thought that there were maybe multiple shooters and maybe it was a terrorist attack. And it's strange that would give us comfort. That is strange that would shift us. No matter what, it is still violence, but we have accepted those things, and that would give us peace in a way because we would know the why, like you're saying. One of the text messages that you sent, I know I said I wasn't going to ask you guys to share anything, but or impose anything, but I will have to ask you. You sent a text message with the little baby.
That's what hit close to home because really, I mean, I'm from Israel. You never get desensitized to it. Yeah, it happens a lot, and you're always aware of your surroundings. I would never go to a crowded place. I get panicky. I'm always expecting the worst. I'm always thinking about, it's always there. It never leaves my mind, and that's why I would never go to a festival. I wouldn't even go to laser tag. I wouldn't. To me, it's like when it's a lot of people in a small place, I can't. So it's funny to think that we just came back from Israel, but nowhere is safe, and there's no way of saying, oh, okay, back in Vegas, right? And this place is probably, I've met the best people here in Vegas. It really did become a home out of all the places I've lived in, and I have lived in a lot of places. Here I've met the best people. Somebody shared on my Facebook that a mother died, and she was 25 years old, and she left a baby that was 2 months old. And that's when it really hit me. And I know that even the rabbi said, every person is an entire world. It's a whole universe. And you can never really comprehend, but then it hits you that this child is 2 months old. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just longing for his mother's hug and touch, and he doesn't know what's going on. And somebody was asking to donate breast milk or diapers, and of course I jumped in and I was like, how can I help? And it made me feel, and obviously they've already had enough because they had an overwhelming response from people people donated 100 ounces at a time. I was like, I can't do that, but it was amazing to see that a local bakery that I always go to became a place for donations. People dropped off things for first responders and for anyone that is helping. It was really hard for me as a mother for a new
and a
baby.
Nursing mother, because it really hit home with you.
Yeah, because to me, I don't have any family here. The grandparents were able to take this baby in, but I couldn't imagine a baby this young to lose a parent and to not be able to be there for my child and see him growing up, and that's when it really hit me. And it is a safety issue that I'm always thinking about, is because the next day, I mean, yesterday I'm driving my daughter to school and I'm getting this message from her school that now there's a scare for a shooting in Clark County schools. And the feeling of dropping off your kid and not knowing, and it's always in the back of my head. But when it's hitting close to home, when you have a child, you know, and you're not there. You're not there to protect them. And I know there were children in that festival as well. What do you do in that kind of situation? It always brings it to your mind of how severe this is when you read the stories of every victim and you read what they've been through. I mean, I also read a story about a new mom that was shot in the back, and she survived. The bullet, you know, will never be able to be taken out of her because it just, you know, went to a million pieces. But you see her taking care of her newborn baby in the hospital. And she got shot because she was protecting her husband. She was jumping over and protecting her husband. So the fact of, you know, how strong those people are, what it takes to get up and walk in the hospital and walk, you know, hold your newborn baby, and how lucky you are when you see the people didn't have that opportunity.
What do you do to, maybe because again, you're saying things that we all may feel, but what are you doing to get over the sick feeling?
I don't believe you can live in fear. You know, there were a lot of people that didn't want to come into work the next day, and I totally understand that. I mean, I'm not judging them. I mean, you know, but I also told myself, if I allow that feeling to take over, then it's only that feeling of like despair and why would this happen to our city, and oh my God, look at who it's affected. Like, it could take over. What I'm doing is, I mean, you know, you hug your family a little tighter. My son, my fiance, you cherish the people around you more, your friends, your family, and you're thankful that, you know, you have the opportunity to still tell them, you know, I love you and I'm glad you're in my life.
No matter what your emotions are, I think you may have said this, no matter how you feel, it's okay. Can you share that part?
Well, and that was, it was something I'd seen. They had like a grief counselor on the news or whatever, and that was because I felt a lot of the same stuff where it was like, I'm not directly affected. I've only lived here a year, you know, but like I'm feeling these like super intense emotions right now. And it was kind of this like thing she just said where she was like, you have to understand that like whatever emotion you're feeling is okay. Like, you can't get past an emotion until you accept it. So like, you have to first accept that feeling that like, it's okay that I feel this way, like no matter what I'm feeling. And then once I get there, I can move past. And I thought that was really powerful, yeah.
The Monday, the following day after the event, I went upstairs to my hotel room and I watched some of the videos of the shooting. These are some of the videos that were taken by people at the concert. Hearing the gunfire from what I presume to be, I could only interpret as a fully automatic weapon, it brought such angst over me, such sadness. And I tried to imagine what I would do in a situation like that. I put myself in the shoes of the concert goers, and I just had an overwhelming feeling of terror and sadness of why did they have to be the unlucky people that had gotten afflicted by this incident. And it really hit me hard. That evening was a real struggle for me. I did reach out to you, and I told you I was very upset. I reached out to another friend that I'm very close to, and I told him that I was very upset, and we had a chance to speak. And I had to talk to someone that understood where I was coming from, someone who had the same feelings. Washington, D.C. people were asking me how I was, and that was fine. But I just felt that they didn't quite understand how much of this was impacting me, because I live here. This is my home. These are my people. And one of the things that really brought me back up though and made me feel much more positive was the way that the residents of the city were able to come together and donate blood, make monetary donations, make donations of food and other supplies. It brought me great joy to see the fortitude and the strength of people to come together and overcome this terrible incident. I overlooked my own anger at the individual who committed this act by seeing what the reaction of the people were. I was able to overlook all that and say, there's something positive that's come out of it. It is still terrible to watch this on the news. I've been watching some of the news, some of the 24-hour news stations, and they've shown all the different all the various different victims, and it really is heartbreaking. And every time I look at these people, and it's a range of ages, a lot of people in their 30s, some people in the 60s, but still just to see that a lot of people's lives have been cut so short makes me sad. It still brings me down. But I know that there's a lot of good in this city, and that's something that I feel very, very comforted about. But it was very difficult being so far away and not being able to come back until days after this, because I wanted so badly to be around all of you and to feel your energy, to say we can do this together. And I'm really grateful to have been able to come back and to be here with you guys. It's a lot of emotions, it's a lot to feel, but I think it's healthy to be able to talk about it and to connect with others, and the good that's come from this awful tragedy is what makes me proud to be even though an adopted one, a Las Vegan.
Yeah, a Las Vegan.
And like Spencer said, it makes you feel so lucky and hug your family a little tighter and say, hey, I'm still here. And every day is a gift, and you shouldn't take it for granted. And the one positive thing out of it is live life to the fullest, because you never know what's gonna happen. You never know how long you have with your loved ones. That is the one thing you can take from it is, be cautious. Yeah, I wouldn't go to those places, but really make the best out of every day.
And that's the thing too. You can't stop living, and we can't live in fear, and you can't forget. So yes, we stay aware, but no matter how prepared you are, I don't think you can imagine the worst, because we don't think like them. We don't have the minds of someone who's able to do the worst. So what can you do? Everyone, those who were at the festival, they were in a battle, and none of them were prepared for war.
I will say this: I recently took an active shooter course, active shooter protection course. I take Krav Maga, self-defense classes, and there was a special course. A gentleman flew in from Israel who used to train IDF forces, and we did this course. And the odd thing is, what was taught, nothing had to do with a shooter who was 32 stories up with a fully automatic weapon. It had to do with ground level protection, what you do to protect yourself in that case, but there was nothing. And I thought about what could I have applied from that course to this, and it was nothing. Impossible.
Nothing.
So crazy.
No, that was a scenario they were like, there was no way we could have seen how this would have gone down.
Right.
I gotta say this though, it made me so proud of our city to see the next day blood banks were so full they couldn't take anymore else. People,
awesome.
Hospitals were just getting inundated with groceries and water and food, everything. And the way this community
Mac was full of people, because that's where the first displaced people had to go, and Thomas and Mack had to turn away people from bringing water and sleeping bags and blankets. So it was beautiful to see that.
It was a weird mixture of especially in those couple days after, that sick feeling, but also just this swelling of pride in my city.
Looking at the heroic acts of people on the scene and the way people have responded afterwards, I think the word for me that really pops into my mind and resonates is hope. Because one could get very cynical after an incident like this. One could think the world has come to an end. And I do remember that I felt hopeless after September 11th, watching that unfold. But I do feel that people have strength and they have a lot of hope. And that is one thing that I can tell you is I don't feel cynical about society or people after this. I feel a great sense of hope because of the positive response to this. And it almost feels like this man that committed this act he's just one man amongst millions of people that are very hopeful and very strong, very resilient. And yes, there may be other people like that in the world, but I feel like there's so many good people out there, and so many good people in this community that I don't think anything can take us down. And I'm really grateful that we've not all fallen into this pit of cynicism, that we are stronger than that. And that's really what I get from this. Yes, I do think that, unfortunately, my view is I think this man got off easy by us not being able to capture him. I do find it rather frustrating and puzzling because we don't understand the motivation. But all that aside, I'm so grateful that there's wonderful people in this world that can come together and be strong and overcome this.
We didn't let him win. I think that's the what you get from this is that if we would have been completely, I mean, I was distraught, but people coming together and supporting each other and rising above this, we won, he lost. And to me, that he did not bring us down. And he may have escaped, that was a cowardly thing, he killed himself, but we didn't let him win. And the fact that we're still strong and we're not cynical about it, and that means that we did not let him win.
That's good.
If this was a battle of ideology, you're absolutely right. We won. Hope won out.
Love won.
Love.
Because you bring up something. Your word is hope. I like one word. So if we all can think of your one word, your word would be, again, summing up what you have taken from this and what you would, your message to those who may need a word of wisdom or comfort. Your word. Hero.
Community.
Community.
I would say strength.
Strength. I would say my word is choice. Because reality, and life is reality. We do have good and we do have bad. It is our choice to put the weight on the bad when there's so much more good. It is also our choice in what we decide to do after any situation. It's a choice that we all decided to come here and talk. It's a choice to return and call Las Vegas home. It's a choice for us to have donated blood. So my word is choice.
Poor Antonio.
I know.
I
have a word, dude.
I have my word.
What is your word?
It's life.
Life.
You choose life.
Wonderful. Choose life. And everything leads to life. That is our number one gift. Our first gift is life. And all of that, hope, hero, community, strength, choice. It's all about life. You're right. We wouldn't have any of that if we didn't have life.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you.
We bow our heads in sorrow for the senseless loss of innocent life in the horrific October 1st attack at the Harvest Music Festival. Such acts of appalling cruelty and violence attempt to strike at the fundamental bonds of solidarity undergirding the foundations of our community. We stand united, steadfast in our determination to prevail against such manifestations of pure evil. Words are inadequate to express the profound shock and grief which we feel for the victims and their families. Our thoughts go out to the many wounded for a complete and speedy recovery, and our prayers are voiced for those who have lost their loved ones. May their memories be blessed. At this difficult time, as we mourn the victims of a music festival torn apart by a madman's gunfire, the simple but profound words of the great conductor Leonard Bernstein ring truer than ever. This will be our reply to violence, to make music more intensely, more beautifully, more devotedly than ever before.